Before there was an APABA, there was the Asian Concerns Committee, which was a joint committee of the various Asian American bar associations. It was a committee that filled the vacuum because APABA didn't exist.
The idea of a unified Pan-Asian Bar Association made more sense from that point on, with this committee already joined and joining together these 4 bar associations.
You also have to understand the historical backdrop of what was happening at around the time when APABA first began to become an idea. That was during the period when we had the Rodney King beating, we had the Soon Ja-do incident, we had civil unrest.
During the 1992 riots, people were not discerning one Asian American from another, and it was like they're all Koreans. We don't like Koreans. That there was a whole community really being targeted, and therefore a whole community should respond.
The impetus for that really came from those events and sort of the forward-thinking mindset of certain people in the Asian Concerns Committee, in particular Dolly G, who I think most people will acknowledge as sort of the Earth Mother for the organization.
Dolly had this glimmer in her eye and decided that we would start this organization that would be more inclusive of people that were of mixed API heritage, such as myself, who didn't fit into one of the big 4 bar organizations.
I really wanted to become actively involved in Asian bar activities, but there was really no natural fit because I'm Vietnamese American, graduated at a time when there weren't a whole lot of Vietnamese American attorneys practicing in Los Angeles. And it wasn't that the other organizations weren't welcoming, it was just because there was no Pan-Asian bar organization.
So, based upon just the idea of both inclusion and unity, we started to wage this campaign for a Pan-Asian Bar Association.
I happened to attend the APABA community reception, and they talked about forming a Pan-Asian bar at that event, and they gave us some information about a meeting. I showed up and it was at Dolly G's office. I remember her opening the door of her office and I remember her serving popcorn at this meeting.
We had this 5-year plan that we had devised in which we were going to put forth the idea of APABA. We wanted to do it right. We wanted to set the right foundations.
And we started, talking about the idea amongst ourselves, and then we had different people bring up the idea with the different bar associations.
At first, it was just getting the word out to different people, encouraging them to come to the organizational meetings that Dolly spearheaded. She had this white paper that she circulated.
The white paper was really a way to start the conversation. And I drafted the paper and sort of put forth some of the issues and concerns that people had identified were good reasons why we needed to start APABA.
Another thing that we're concerned with was establishing the coalitions. So that was to have a strong relationship with JABA, with CABA, with PABA, and with SCALA.
And it was just a really wonderful and exciting time because we all had such commitment to seeing APABA established.
We had a community forum which, as I recall, was held at Loyola Law School.
Bringing all the bar associations together and having them air out what they felt were their differences.
We met with a fair amount of skepticism and resistance.
The individual bars felt that they didn't want their autonomy taken away and they didn't want to dilute their strength.
The most interesting part of it to get from ACC to APABA was the idea that we'll just make all these bar associations founding members, and that will get the inclusion that we're looking for without them sacrificing their individual autonomy.
It would be clear that we were not a competing organization, but that we were a creation of the other bar associations.
Each of the bar associations agreed collectively to have a representative from each organization on the board. We had representatives from the student organizations.
The work of mediation and negotiation ultimately ending up in collaboration.
The whole point of having a new organization was not so that someone like me, who had already been the president of the Southern California Chinese Lawyers Association, could then be president of APABA. The whole point of the organization was to show the diversity of our community.
They were strategic at first. Certainly the idea that we have Howard both being a leader of JABA and CABA was already symbolic of unity.
Dolly G and others then came to me to talk about being the president-elect of the inaugural year and the significance that it would really have to have a Vietnamese American attorney as its second president.
The first installation dinner wasn't like any other regular dinner that bar associations had. It was actually at the California Science Museum, and we got to walk around the museum. And, you know, there was a keynote, and there were a lot of opportunities to mingle.
There were close to 700 people who came. People and their families, children came. It was really a great event.
We had come from an APABA convention when I think it was 92, 93, where a lot of us in LA had worked on it. Howard gets it in his head, you know, brings it up to the APABA, why don't we have it in Los Angeles again? It was nuts, you know, it's the first year of your existence and, you know, you take on a convention. Ended up being a very fun convention. And to get Al Gore, who was the vice president at the time, to come and, you know, speak at your convention was a huge coup.
One of the first things that we really tried to make an institution and a signature event for APABA was the new admittee reception, which we did at Oiwake. And that was a very successful event for us for several years. It was an event that gave us an opportunity to welcome the new admittees to the bar and also give them a chance to meet leaders from the different APA bar associations.
One of the bar functions is to help mentor law students, kind of guide them through law school and to figure out what they want to do in their careers.
Every year, APABA has a fellowship. It's a $5,000 fellowship for a student who has shown or demonstrated a particular interest in public interest work, serving the API community of Los Angeles.
But APABA also does things that often don't get as much notice, like clinics to help people in the community who don't have access to lawyers and legal services. One of the things I like about APABA is that because it's a Pan-Asian bar, it can do clinics in different communities because the board and the members come from so many different ethnic groups.
And one of the things that I remember us becoming involved in early on was filing a Amici brief.
And we wound up drafting a brief which the other organizations signed on. It was denied, but APABA took a stand on it.
Every year we do a softball tournament, usually in August.
The first year we did the APABA softball tournament, it was law students and judges versus attorneys. I remember Justice Catherine Doyd Todd coming up to bat, and she got the law students and judges home, and they won that year.
It's just a way for some attorneys to get together, get some exercise, and meet some friends, have some great food, and have some friendly competition.
So since then, Sandeep Baweja took that on and brought on all the bar associations to each field a team.
It started off with just the local APA bars, and it's grown to a 12-team tournament. It's an all-day tournament. It's become very, very competitive.
The other major event, I would say, would be the May Heritage Month event, which has become a centerpiece of APABA every year.
A lot of people, when I was president of APABA, still weren't as aware of the details around the internment of the Japanese Americans during World War II.
The first Asian Pacific American Heritage Month event was on the Koromatsu case and the parallels with post 9/11 America.
What the Muslim Americans started facing in terms of the USA Patriot Act, how they were being rounded up, how people were assuming that they were terrorists. So we had really important lessons from the time of discrimination against Japanese Americans in their internment to bring to the broader community.
We applied for the state bar grant, and we were awarded to basically put on that event.
There were a number of really good panel discussions after that the succeeding presidents did.
So we've done a lot of issues, I think Asians in the media representation.
Proposition 209 and its aftermath.
Community service.
Asian Americans in politics.
Hate crimes.
Panel on bullying.
I think the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month events are sort of at its core civil rights events.
It kind of recharges your batteries. You're so impressed by what people are doing with their law degrees and actually changing lives, making a better America. So it's one of these events you go to and you think, you know, I'm really happy to be a lawyer and I know that I can make a positive change.
The Asian Pacific American Bar Association has a couple of very important components to what it is. One is that it is Asian American, which is a rich, diverse, important heritage to always celebrate. The other is that we're lawyers, and lawyers have a really important role in society in the way we help shape laws and policies and the way we engage.
I think what's interesting is that A lot of the older people who put that bar association together in the first place are outside of the mainstream of the leadership, and I think we chose to do it that way. I think that the whole idea was to continue to empower the young people with their new ideas and their vision.
As a past president, I'm fortunate enough to serve on the advisory board, and for me it's just a place I don't want to leave. I feel like my best friends and my family are part of APABA, and I still have a lot more energy that I can give. I try not to get involved too much to the extent that the organization doesn't grow and doesn't come up with new ideas, but I'm certainly willing to lend my hand.
So I'm really proud of this organization and how far it's come, and I hope that it will continue to grow and become an important part of the community.
Get involved, because we're here to help, we're here to support, and that's increasing diversity in faculty and on the bench, and the practice in general is one of our main goals.
I'm hoping that it will continue to be a voice for the community, to be courageous, to be unafraid to speak out. Its roots include the Asian Concerns Committee and its commitment to speaking truth to power and to making sure that the voice of the voiceless is heard. So I'm hoping that that will always remain in the forefront of what APABA finds important and which is part of its identity.